Mary, the Mother of Jesus. How marvelous is the concept that man can at last perceive the reality of God, the reality of finding favor with God. To be highly favored of God is the lot of all who can accept this concept. For the conception is an immaculate one that belongs to everyone. For he who framed the worlds has not disparaged of bringing peace to the centuries, to the millenniums, even to the minutiae of the second. And so, even the tick of a clock can be endowed with the concept of immortality. For immortality swallows up all things into its vastness. And man findeth favor with God. And the moment that this favor comes to his consciousness, the moment that awareness that he is breaking the bread of life is his own thought because he has made it so, that moment does he realize the truth that has always been so, that he, man, is also a creator. Man is a creator of destiny, even as God is. The works of his mind and of his heart, when tethered to the darkness of the double standard, the double eye vision, produce many harms and much pain. But when the divine concept that man has found favor with God is truly realized, man begins the outworking of the wondrous spiritual nature of God into the appearance world. And the veil of the appearance world no longer becomes the dense enfoldment of his consciousness by all of the mortal dregs that result in pain and suffering and even shame. For shame is a state to the mind and consciousness which ought to be wiped away as tears from the eyes. And truly, God shall wipe away all tears from the eyes of mankind and establish that Christ reality which is a veritable fountain of hope to the world, the fountain of hope that radiates the light of the world to mankind, the fountain whose crystal stream, by reason of its purification and of its purity, radiates to man the purity of God, the purity of creative purpose. When creative purpose is perceived, when it trembles as the truth and reality of God upon the shaft of the mind, descending into form, it produces that miracle, or the miracles, that mankind now sometimes vainly hope for. For faith is the substance of that which is not seen as yet. And man should recognize his role in calling forth faith from the very heart of God. Faith to do the necessary tasks in this day, when the light of hope seems to have burned out in so many individuals. When the fears of uncertainty are come upon mankind, for the sins of the world are truly gross and becoming grosser each day. Perfect love that casts out all fear dwells within man, but man, by reason of his sense of solitude from his fellow men and from his God, making him feel even alone in a multitude, separates him from the great realization of the oneness of the garment of God, the seamless robe my Son wore. Let all who can conceive now of the seamless robe as a garment of light that humanity may wear today, but one day, if they are to end their turmoil and the return of vicious karma they have sent out, must also universally wear. Within each individual, there is posited by angelic hands and the fire of the certainty of the sacred Son of God, the awareness that I am is the name of God. That in the concept of beingness, in the concept of universal awareness, man may come, if he wills it so, to that wondrous place where the eyes behold the universal Christ as the Spirit of living truth and high adventure, seeking to step through the veil in every man, to convert and change every man into the glowing fires of the spiritual sun. The words, "Our God is a consuming fire," were majestically inscribed upon a tiny necklace which my Son wore upon his neck. Written in the Hebrew tongue and treasured highly, it was lost and never found by man again the night when he was captured and betrayed. But I tell you, the eternality of God by this day, from the memories and treasure of my heart, bringing forth that sacred memory that you may share this moment, that moment with me. For the words are true, and the power and principle of light and fire are as one. But so many see all around them the evidences of eternal spheres and know it not, for their consciousness is of a metal which, brittle and shining, produces only glitter and small reflection of reality. Open the eyes of your consciousness. Open the doors of reality to yourself and become strong upon the rock of God. For the foundations ought not to be moved. They ought to stand firm in each individual, carrying him from glory unto glory each day. And men ought not to permit their consciousness to go downward into despair, even to the pits of despair, and then mightily rise as an arrow into the air. Instead, they ought to maintain and seek to maintain that constancy of the total man that always knows that he is upon the spiral road, rising higher and higher into the universal ethers. Deriving from this high adventure of cosmic progress the realization that the purposes of God are being worked out in his own life, that ultimately all that is not of the goal and the shining end will fall from his grasp and be no more. Instead, he will joyously leap as a young child leaps forward in a green and golden meadow to pluck the flowers from the grass that allure him most because they are products of the sun, the earth, and the rain. He perceives in these mortal blossoms the realization of immortal hopes not yet realized. And so in the lives of all individuals upon the planet, there remain many unrealized hopes. But the hope that has most often been dashed to pieces in the world is the hope of the living God, that humanity, putting away their toys, their ploys, their darkness, and even their human joys, will realize at last that there is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof is death, and then linger no more upon those strands of darkness and shadow, but instead move ahead to the crowning Christ-victorious victory of each life, a triumph of God adventure, a divine triumph made possible in the cathedral of each man's mind, where God is enshrined, where hope lives on as a perpetual flame upon an altar to the living God and the principle of immortal life. Life is worthy when men make it worthy. Life is worthy as the world draws nigh to the high adventure the world in reality seeks, but knoweth not where to find. They are imbued, unfortunately, from time to time with a sense of boredom, with a sense of purposeless drift. Let them come instead to that point they have missed in their evolution, in the law of cycles. Let them come instead to the pathway where they can, holding the hand of God as a little child, recognize that maturity is being born within them, even in their younger years. And one day, as they attain the pathway of cosmic mastery, each one may find that blessed fulfillment which we also found in the angelic salutation, "Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee, and with thy spirit." I pondered much upon this salutation, and in the days since its fulfillment, in part, I have also perceived the glorious illumination of God shining forth in the cathedral of my being and mind, a hope that never remains blind, but always opens consciousness door to see, to perceive, and in the perception to be, not a bruised reed or broken flax, but a strand of hope, a rope leading upward to the light and the glory and the fire of true cosmic desire. A God is born in man, for man was born a God. And now, as I stretch forth over you all this day, the rod of Aaron the rod of cosmic truth, the rod of hope, no bruised reed, but the strongest seed, the seed of God, perfection. I say, let this vine be a vine, the true vine of immortal life, and let the great joy bells ring out over the earth as an eternal Easter in the fall. For whereas man has descended into all manner of darkness and destructivity and karmic meanderings, the light of God has not gone out. The hope of God is not extinguished. There is before all the flaming power of victory transcendent. The victory of my Son may be shared by everyone. Remember this, for I speak as a mother of hearts who gathereth her children, that they may give homage and honor to the purposes of the immortal Son, the universal Christ. Shared by all, the giant pall darkening humanity's consciousness lifts, and in its place the pure perfection of eternity shines, not as a vagrant mist, but a golden mist of scintillating hope. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Let this be in you. Let this seed dwell in you. Let these words sink down into your hearts. For so do you honor his purpose, and you honor my purpose as well. And above all, we bow our knees gratefully toward the living God, the Spirit that has created the sweet vale of earth as a place where man may shed his tears and fears, and then come at last, with the passing of the years, into the eternal day star from on high, that has visited man in the past and visits him now. Let those who have an ear to hear what the Spirit has to say. For the Spirit of the living God still speaks, and the veil stands still, rent in twain. The doorway, the gateway, the shining path to the universal Holy of Holies is before each one, and each one determines the progress they shall make by the very actions they do take. I pledge you my love. I pledge you my hope. I pledge you my faith. Will you give me yours also, that hope may exchange with hope, and upon the rising ladder of cosmic glory we may stand together, mother, son, daughter, all one, in the Christ consciousness, the face of God, reflected light of the immortal presence. Peace be upon you.